just got an opportunity just to kind of support the last discussion. I was invited to go to a program in St. Paul, and Cargill was there big time, and they kind of mocked when they got to a certain point. They got up there and they said, go ahead and learn all the Spanish that you want. We're teaching our kids Chinese. And the stress point, it got really quiet, and needless to say, they said, how can we not get into that market? It's such a huge potential for us. Cargo will be in that market as we get out the road. So some support to those statements. But this year has been unruly for answering phone calls, emails, and addressing some of the issues with our hay crop and how do we supplement it. Now we have corn prices and grain prices that have gone shot through the roof. So when we were setting up our session for today, we decided that we needed to address kind of these things. So I'm kind of the setup guy, and then we're going to follow up, and Dan's going to come back through right after lunch or after lunch, and we're going to discuss trying to keep in control of our feed costs, which has escalated. I checked with Eddie Bill yesterday afternoon. I think $6.70 cash price. Does that sound right for the area? That's just double what it was a few months ago, and it's created a havoc for our livestock producers and put a smile on many producers that are just raising row crop. How do we get the two to mix and keep our numbers up? So that's some of the things that we're kind of talking about. So with that, I want to make sure that you realize there's a whole slug of different co-products out there that are available. And those co-products vary dramatically throughout the area. If you want to get some prices of different products, Missouri Byproducts co-page is updated weekly and has a tremendous amount of Iowa and northern Missouri pricing, so you can get an idea if you're interested in any of those products. Don't want to forget corn. There's times where it's going to flip-flop, where it's going to be comparable to the co-products. Sometimes it's cheaper, but most of the time, most of these feeds are priced lower than the corn market or the soybean milk products, basically over time. And then we have commercial supplements that we also have to make sure that we don't overlook, and sometimes they're very fitting. I'm going to start out with wet products, just to make you aware of that. I know the majority of you are not large enough to use the wet products efficiently or save it because of the moisture problem. But a lot of times they're the cheapest products, okay? And they tend to be higher in energy than the dry feed. And they work well with DMRs because they help condition some of that dry ground hay and some of the other products that you've got. But the problem is we've got to use 50,000 pounds or a truckload to make that work in your system. So I realize, typically for most of you, you're not interested unless you can do something with these wet products, with maybe other enterprises like your beef enterprise or hog enterprise or whatever. So you have some questions here that you need to ask. You know, can you justify even getting involved with the wet product? Can you keep it in condition? Because it does get pretty nasty pretty fast, especially during warm weather. And then in syrup, with the wet stuff, with the weather we're going to have next week and some we had this week, it can freeze up as well. So many issues with the wet product. And then of course, we have the risk of maintaining and managing through the intake level. Okay, this picture is designed to kind of reflect, I hope you can see through my big body, but you can see here that that delivered, piled up, it's nice, it looks good. 2 days though, and hot weather, it'll definitely get hot, and pretty soon the feed value is going to be gone. The second issue that we tend to have is the nutrient levels. Tends to be very low in calcium, high in phosphorus, and then we have potential with sulfur being an issue. In most cases, unless you're in lamb finishing, you usually don't get that sulfur level too high when you're supplementing your ewes with their traditional diet. And with using some sort of hay or forage in it, we can feed up to 0.5% sulfur and typically not have any problems with polio or those kind of things that can implement issues with your herd health. Okay, here are the products that are available pretty much consistently throughout the area. And this product here is wet Distillers grains, Solubles. Moisture level, you can see it's pretty wet, 60 to 70% moisture. But the protein level, most of these items that we've got here, nutrient analysis points, like protein, PDN, fat, all these are amplified because of the process that's happened in making these wet products, the distillers process. And you can see that there's quite a level of fat, 30% protein, kind of typical. That's on dry matter basis. PDN tends to be higher than corn, so we've got higher energy rate for corn. And again, you have to kind of watch that sulfur level in your product. And when you get it wet, like 60, 70%, 70% sure, if you squeeze that, it's going to be a pretty good level of liquid in it, okay? Another one is a modified Distillers grains or Solubles. That basically is a mixture of the wet stuff we just looked at with some dry, and you can see it's much more manageable. You can store this if you want to in a bag and get along very well with the processing and staying in condition. What's freezing typically is not that big a problem with this product. So there's a potential that you could use a wet product and still get along. Moisture is about 50% instead of 65 to 70. So if you squeeze that, you're not going to get the liquid like I showed in the slide before. Protein still is in the upper 20s, 30%. PDN, level of corn, maybe a little higher. So you got a pound of dry in each hand, one of corn, one of modified. It's going to be at least equal with corn, and many times 10%, maybe 15% higher. And again, it has some fat content in it, and that makes it look pretty good. Now, condensed distiller solubles. This is the liquid stuff that you do. You need to probably have TMR equipment or some method to mix it with your dry hay. But when you mix it in with the dry hay, it works pretty darn good because it conditions it, holds it together, doesn't separate, and it works really slick. It tends to be lower in protein than the other products I've shown you. It's also cheaper as well, but it has excellent energy level for your ration. Wet corn gluten feed. Now that's been around for a long time. You can see that we're talking, this is primarily in the 40 to 60% moisture range. Most of the time it's up there close to that 60% range. Protein level on it, on a dry matter basis, tends to be around 20%. I think the sheets generally say when they discharge this stuff, 18 to 21 is typically the span that they've got, and it's a darn good product. We've used that for many years, and when it comes down to it, the energy on this stuff is equivalent to basically corn for the most part. Okay?